Common thinking traps and how to avoid them. In order to escape from the mental prisons that we can so easily build for ourselves, in the book Brilliant CBT, Dr. Stephen Breyers examines 7 common thinking traps that keep us unhappy so that we can become aware of the ways they cause our difficulties. Then, in this chapter, and as the book progresses, he teaches us simple strategies to avoid these common thinking errors and remediate them. The traps are catastrophizing, generalizing, mind reading, polarized and rigid thinking, emotional thinking, blaming, filtering and magnifying, and emotive language.
Thinking Error 1. Catastrophizing. The end of the world is nigh. Page 50 shows an example of someone catastrophizing. It's the hallmark of an anxious person. It combines pessimism with a wildly exaggerated sense of threat. It assumes that things will not just be bad, but be really bad. People who catastrophize can be just as distressed by relatively trivial setbacks as a major misfortune. They project a doom-laden, frightening scenario. They seldom realize they have resources to deal with this. If you do this, try the following strategies. Ask yourself, on a scale of all bad things that have happened in the past or will happen in the future, how bad this event could be. If I had no choice but to deal with the very worst thing that could happen in this scenario, and what would I actually do? What could help me now that I did when faced with past difficulties?
Thinking Error 2. Generalizing. Things always go wrong for me. We're drawn to patterns. Some people generalize more than others. These people require little evidence in order to deduce laws and assumptions about the way the world works. In the case of a depressed person, these tend to be downbeat. A man loses a game and concludes, "I don't win at anything." A kid gets teased at school and concludes, "Everyone hates me." An old lady reads about a mugging locally and concludes, "No one is safe these days." These generalizations are far-reaching and universal conclusions drawn on the basis of a single experience or discrete bit of information. People who use the words never, always, everyone, and no one are probably vulnerable to generalization. To counter these generalizations, we need to look for exceptions to our rules, e.g., winning once means you don't always lose, and having one friend means that not everyone hates you. Have to be careful generalization doesn't become a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, believing you're universally unpopular means you won't make the effort to make any friends.
Thinking Trap 3. Mind reading. She thinks I am an idiot. We can reliably infer a lot of things from a person's behavior and past actions towards us. However, sometimes our imaginations can run riot, leaping to conclusions about other people's motives and attitudes based on little hard evidence. We especially do this when those motives and attitudes affect us. We have no way of knowing for certain what someone else is thinking without them telling us. Not asking leaves us open to a host of paranoid projections and misunderstandings. We are most likely to mind read when the motives and attitudes affect us directly. In order to counter this, consult other people regarding their views and opinions. For example, others what they value about you. Examples on page 53 to 54. Thinking Error 4. Polarized and rigid thinking. It's black or white, 100% or not good enough. If it's not the best, it's rubbish. You're a winner or a loser. The world simply doesn't fit into categories like that. It isn't that simple. Overclassifications are always imperfect. Trying to put the world into boxes like that will create all kinds of problems if you think like that.
Polarized and dogmatic thinkers have strong moral judgments and self-evaluations, which can cause a great deal of unnecessary distress. They can also spend a lot of time trying to impose their classification system on other people, believing their way is the only way. This leads to evils including racism, bigotry, sexism, and political extremism. They consequently put themselves and others under a great deal of pressure. CBT encourages more flexible, sophisticated ways of perceiving the world. It's not about ditching values or becoming amoral. It's just that extreme thinkers have few places to go mentally, as their thinking is that rigid. Look out for the words should, ought to, and must. This may indicate the presence of unhelpfully rigid assumptions about the person or yourself and the world. Thinking Error 5. Emotional Thinking. I feel so guilty. I must have done something awful. The impact of someone's behavior may be unintentional, but the feeling it generates in you makes it feel more real. Like one sibling complaining that their younger sibling is winding them up intentionally, when in fact the wind-up is unintentional. Common examples of emotional reasoning. I feel attacked means someone must be getting at me. I feel guilty might mean I must have done something bad. I feel scared might mean something bad is about to happen. The antidote for this is recognize your emotions are not necessarily accurate guides when it comes to establishing the truth. Set your feelings aside and consider what hard evidence there may be that supports your conclusion. Consider other possible explanations. Ask yourself, would someone else be reacting to this situation in the same way?
Thinking Error 6, Blaming. It's all your fault. Dishing out blame for something disengages your problem-solving skills. It's a cognitive dead end and surefire cue for a whole host of destructive emotions, such as resentment, bitterness, anger, and hatred. When the situation is someone else's fault, there is no call to do anything about it or seek to understand what else played a role in it, including you. Underneath blame, there are some dysfunctional assumptions, such as, I must be good at all times or people will hate me, a form of catastrophization. Or, if I'm not perfect, I'm useless and unworthy, polarized and rigid thinking. Another extreme is people with OCD reduce anxiety by making up and performing strange rituals for themselves. They're particularly prone to self-guilt in strange, irrational ways. Guilt is a natural reaction to doing something wrong. However, if you feel it a lot for no good reason, this could be an indication of an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, or that a very negative set of core beliefs may be controlling your life.
Thinking Error 7. Filtering and Magnifying. You see, it's just as I thought. Filtering regards information that fits in with our beliefs. Magnifying means we emphasize information that fits our beliefs by exaggerating its importance and frequency. This is looking for evidence that supports our negative conclusions about ourselves, such as on page 60-61. A lady organizes a wedding for her friend, and one minor screw-up meant she was a failure at organizing the wedding, which supports the belief that Jane holds about herself, which is, she is no good. Techniques to avoid filtering and magnifying include, try to see the whole picture, take all the facts into account, even if they don't seem to fit your expectations. See whether you can build a case for the opposite viewpoint. The wedding was a runaway success because I did a fantastic job. Check you're not blowing certain elements out of proportion. You could ask, did other people react in the same way as you? Thinking Error 8. Emotive Language. We describe events to ourselves in ways that can either inflame our reactions or calm them down. If I tell myself, that man despises everything I stand for, rather than we don't always see eye to eye, I will instantly be defensive next time we meet. Saying to myself, the situation was utterly humiliating, as opposed to briefly uncomfortable, means I will be making strenuous efforts to avoid similar situations in future, even if such protective maneuvers are entirely unnecessary. My language has raised the stakes. Emotive language is one of the main reasons people convince themselves they will be unable to tolerate situations that they have perfectly good resources to tolerate. See example on page 62. Be careful that when you describe past or future events to yourself, you do not prejudice yourself. This is counterproductive. It's very hard to think objectively about a scenario that has already been given a strong emotional charge, feelings. Our language often colors our perception of the events, feeling into fears and anxieties. The remedy for this: when thinking about emotionally inflammatory scenarios, check your vocab to make sure you're not throwing fuel into the fire of your negative thoughts. Strive to achieve the most neutral, objective tone that you can. When recalling distressing events, imagine you're writing a bulletin for a news broadcast, which requires you to assume a detached, objective perspective. There are exercises at the end of this chapter to help recognize the thinking traps in this video. These are in the book.